Hey guys, Tim Bratz here. Welcome to another episode of Spilling the Beans. This is the second part of our two-part series with Holly MacKinnon of Small Seed Bars. And so last week is all about the product. This week's all about her business journey and what it's like working with her husband and the sales and the marketing side of things and how they're continuously progressing and moving things up on the production side and the human resources and operations and all the other components of small business ownership and how small businesses continue to scale. So I'm excited to dive into some of that and learn about some of her bottlenecks, see if we can help break through some of those, and hear a little bit more about Holly's story. So let's go sit down with Holly. So Holly, let's dive into the business side of things. Last week we talked a lot about the product itself, how like kind of the origin story of how Small Seed came to be. I want to dive more into the business element of it. I want to understand like the manufacturing and like the distribution, and I want to talk a little bit about the marketing side of things. I know we hit on that last time, but the marketing and like this grassroots movement and kind of this tribal following that you guys have created, I think is really, really impactful and really powerful. And I'd love to hit on any sort of like bottlenecks you might be facing and be able to offer any sort of insights or just talk through any of that kind of stuff too. It would be fun in order to help, get this into more eyeballs. Yeah. Get more eyeballs and get this into more people's kitchens. So as far as, we talked last week a little bit, we talked before about the nutrition facts and all this kind of stuff. Packaging, we have not talked about. I'd love to understand, how'd you come up with this packaging? I really love the design of it. It feels clean. It feels kind of like that clean from an ingredient standpoint. I like the clean design. I like that it's different too. I like it's not like a cellophane wrap, like a regular protein bar is too. It's a little bit different and it stands out. So like, how did you guys come up with this packaging?
So it's actually funny you say it's not like a regular one, and that's only because we like package all these ourselves. We don't have a packaging machine, so like typically the reason it would be in one of those like more folded like ones is because it's going through a machine and it's like picking it up and it's like folding it on it. But like we literally like hand package every single one of these, like
and then
heat
stamp it.
seal them. Yeah, like we heat seal them and then like that's the bar itself. So it's funny that like that is a difference about us because we do hand do all of it. And like I said earlier in the last episode is like my husband makes all of these himself, so he hand makes every single bar we've ever sold. Before, like farmers markets, I was making them, but like since we've been selling them nationwide, like he has made every single bar himself. And
you've sold about 1 million bars.
Yeah.
About 1 million bars. That's like substantial.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Yeah.
That's really cool.
It is. It's like a really big like, and the crazy part is like I said, we don't put any money into marketing, and like we've just been like rolling. Like we're not on this like crazy like trajectory of like we went from 0 to 1 million like overnight, but like we've like been, and we've like hit hurdles and we've like almost burned, and then we like make our way back up, and then we dip down, and then we're like we're back, like and we're just like on this good like steady sustainable incline of like nothing's ever popped off like absolutely like overnight where we're like, okay, we can't do this, because like I said, it's just my husband. So like as sick as it would be if like that happened, like at the same time we'd be like, we gotta like pause for a second because we have one person making all of these bars, And so it's been like really nice because we have been like steadily growing. We're kind of getting to a point right now, which is why we're looking for a manufacturing piece of equipment, because like he can only make so many, and we're kind of like really pushing that brim. Yeah, like we're really pushing it right there. We're like, we either need to hire somebody else or we need to get a machine. So we're getting a machine, and that'll help us like continue to grow into that like area.
And is that more processing of the actual bars, or is that with packaging, or?
So that's the bar.
Where's it going to save you time?
Making the bars themselves. So we'll still be like hand packaging them all ourselves, but like the actual rolling, cutting, and mixing will be done by the machine. So we'll throw all the ingredients in, it'll mix it up, like shoot it out into a little thing, and then like flatten it out, cut them like at like once, which is also another thing, because we can make all of these ourselves, like we roll them all out. They're not perfect. Like they say that they're 2 ounces on here, but like they may be a little bigger, maybe a little smaller sometimes because we do make them ourselves. Like if one looks a little small, my husband will like toss it, but there are some that are like real fatties and you're like, that's definitely more than, you might be getting like 25 grams of protein at that point, you know, like, and so it'll be nice to have that machine because it'll make everything like uniform. Like it'll be like legit, you know, this much weight, this size of the bar type of thing, which will be really nice too.
No, I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they think that they have to have everything up front. And I think it creates a lot of waste if you have too much funding up front and you start buying all these things and you have all the equipment, you realize you don't use it. Like, I like the bootstrapping of a business, right? Because you got efficiencies in place. You're like, listen, we can't spend the money on that because we're not willing to spend the money because we don't have enough revenue. But this, and you really got to think through it and say, this is the one machine that can help take it, and it's like the one domino that helps knock down several other dominoes, right?
Exactly. It's going to take us to like the next level that we need to be at, and that is, like we.
Can you like double your production that way,
yes.
or
yes.
What's the percentage? It's about double.
Yes, double. Yes, exactly. And just the time, getting like the time back to do like other projects that we've been putting on hold that just like we don't have enough time in the day. And like I'm a full-time business owner, but a full-time mom too. Like I'm a mom all the time, and then I work like X amount of hours a week when we have a sitter. But like, so getting back that time so that like I can focus more on like different marketing efforts and different products that we're considering and different things like that is going to be really big. Because right now we've just like poured all of our energy and everything into the bars, which is like also great because like perfecting one thing I think is like the best way to do it, you know? But it's definitely, it'll free up a lot of time for us, which will be really good. And my husband won't be like absolutely broken body. Like he's like, oh, like we just took a trip out of town and he's like, oh, my body feels so good, not batching. And then he like came back, literally yesterday we came back, he went right back into the kitchen. He's like, oh, my back, like
How many calories does he burn on a daily basis?
Oh, dude, I don't know. He's like,
does he have like
his forearm, like his just like forearm
say,
work of just like rolling, but like he just like mixes them and like rolls them all day. Yeah, I don't know.
If he has like an Oura ring or like a Whoop watch or something that measures like how many steps he takes.
Should.
And, like,
he doesn't have one, but I'd be so curious for him to put one on and be like,
I bet he's probably 20,000 plus steps every single day.
He's a big guy too, so I'm sure he's like, he's.
Is it hard to make these and not snack on them all day?
Oh, we do. We live on these. I absolutely live on. I don't know, like we made them because we weren't eating, and still to this day, like I don't eat. Like I'm like running around with the kids, and like I said, like our business was really starting to grow. Like really became a business when I was pregnant. So then after I had my daughter, I was still trying to work, and like your wife can attest to this, but like trying to take care of a new baby and all that kind of stuff. You're like, you don't have time to make food.
Nope.
Like you don't have time to make real food. So you're like, I lived on our small seed bars, and they're great for moms too because a lot of the ingredients in them actually help with milk production. So like if you're breastfeeding, they're like a great product as well.
Do you talk about all these different things on your social media?
Yeah.
Good.
We touch on all of them. Yeah.
Good. And I think what I've seen is like talk about it over and over and over and over again, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I already made a piece of content about the milk production and how all these are help support nursing moms. And I talked about it a year and a half ago. Well, you got new followers since then, right? You got people who didn't log into their Instagram account on that day, and the algorithm didn't show it to them if they did log in. Like you got to be talking about it all the time. And I know, you said you are, but for anybody who's watching this, like always be promoting, always be educating, always be sharing this information about how good your stuff is, because even if they did hear it, people only retain like 7 or 8% of what they hear, and so they might forget. And so it's good to always remind them how healthy in this instance, how all the benefits of these bars.
Yeah, and totally. Like I think touching back at all those things all the time. Sometimes I feel like, oh, I'm so repetitive, but then I think about it. I'm like, okay, we have a whole new like community of people who like I've never talked about these things before, and like maybe it's repetitive to some of them, but like that also just like sparks in their mind another reason to talk about like when they're sharing them with their friends or whatever, or like a friend gets pregnant and they're like, hey, I know exactly what I'm gonna give you postpartum. Like, you know what I mean? It's like great like to keep on reminding people of like. Why are you
That's a great idea. You could even do like some marketing campaigns about it and do Facebook ads and Instagram ads and retarget people who just had babies, right? As this is a quick snack.
Yeah, so like it's what the community of moms would call like lactation treats or lactation cookies. It has like everything that our bars have in them. But like we just don't call them lactation treats, but they could literally be a lactation cookie. Like they're just like the oats are really great, the nut butters are really great, the flaxseed is really great. Like all of that stuff is really good, and like the brown rice and the yellow pea and the sachaichi, like all of those are actually things that you would add to a lactation treat anyways. So they're great for moms.
Interesting. And there's no issues with them eating while they're pregnant,
No,
right?
they're like, they're perfect. But yeah, like I said, like I lived on these. We still live on these. Like I sometimes I eat them every day for breakfast. Like that's my breakfast every day. But then sometimes also like I just don't eat lunch because I'm like out with the kids or whatever.
Busy,
so
yeah.
I just bring like bars or scraps and like that's what I eat. And then I just don't eat a meal until dinner time, like an actual meal until dinner.
Yep.
But I get my blood work done because I'm plant-based and I always just like to know like where my things are. And I'm always like, they're like, you're perfect, you're healthy, you're great, like you look good. And so I'm like, just living on small seed bars and still doing good.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So as far as design elements and stuff like that, did you guys come up with it on your own? Did you guys hire somebody? Like how did you come up with the design of the package?
It's all been me. Like I said, my background is in marketing. And design's always been my thing. Like I'm a big sucker for good marketing.
Yeah.
Like food companies really like, I can appreciate them. I'm like, you almost got me.
Yeah,
That was a good one.
yeah.
But I'm like colors, like I love colors. I'm like one of those weirdos who will walk through like a grocery store. Like I love going to new grocery stores or like little food markets and I'm like, I just want to like wander around and like see what's up. I'm like, oh, I love that packaging. Like I love that color. Like, and then I'm always curious. I'm like, what drew me in about that? Like, and I try to like make note of like, oh, it was the color or oh, it was the font or like, was it the picture on there? Or was it like the actual, like how you were saying like, oh, this bar is a different shape than most bars. Like that's so interesting. That really like pulled me in. I want to know more about it. Or was it like the bold on the front of like, like gluten-free, like whatever it is, like, and I like to take notes of that. So I feel like I added all of those little elements to making our bars. And I wanted them to be like funky, fresh, clean, like.
Are these all the same? Are these all the same font over here?
That's the font we're switching to, yeah.
Okay,
So that's
so
our
you're
new font
switching.
we're switching to. These are like our older packaging, but we
Got it.
have to like use them up. So we're using those ones up. But yeah, this will be like the new bolder. And we were kind of testing it too. Like the fun thing about being a small business owner is like we do get to do things and like we're not buying things like 30 million at a time, like we're getting smaller batches. So like I wanted to test what would happen with the bold. Like, do people like it? How do they do on wholesale? Like, what do people think? And I'm like, if people don't like it, fine. We go back to our flatter text, and like that's fine. But like we get to test it. People do like it, so we're gonna switch over to this. But it's like you get to try and test things in like different colors and different fonts and even like different looks. Do I want the logo here? Do I want it lower? Like different things like that. And then we're like constantly asking our community has literally built Small Seed. Like I'm constantly taking feedback. Like people think, oh, you just give feedback. No, like you've literally made Small Seed. Like they don't get how much like their flavor recommendations. Like every flavor we've made since we started putting out different flavors has been a recommendation from a customer. Like that, like we really take it and we like have a whole file of like every single flavor that's ever been, and then we'll be like, okay, like what's the most popular ones that are being asked? Okay, chai, a flavor with chai has been being asked a lot. Like let's figure out like a flavor with chai we can make because people really want that type of thing. So like people, like their feedback legitimately like keeps on building Small Seeds. So like the bold font, and then I'm like, what do you guys think? Like, and people are like, love it. Or they're like, I think it'd be better if you did it this way, that way. I think it needs to be like.
And you're just asking on Instagram.
Yeah.
You're just asking the community. Right?
Yeah, just on Instagram, like sometimes like over like newsletters or something like that, like let us know what you think. And like we have a really great community. Like I have to say that like we've built a really great community and people are very responsive. And like, I think once they know they're part of it too, they're like, they feel more invested in it, They're like, my opinion matters. Like I'm not just like a customer,
sure.
like I'm actually like making a difference in this company, like, type of thing. So I do think that is like fun for our customers to be able to see it all unfold. Like like they get pumped when they're like, oh, I suggested that flavor.
Yeah.
like that was mine. Like I did that. And
Put
I'm
my
like,
name
yes.
on it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, yes. Like,
what is, like I sat on a marketing panel last night and we talked about the importance of kind of like building the tribe and just leading with value and sharing and also not having a faceless corporation. You had mentioned in the previous episode how you kind of became the brand personally, and you're sharing a little bit about your life, you're sharing with the kids, and how you implement this in your life and what other people are doing with it and all those other things. I think that's a big deal, right? As opposed to, hey, who knows, Small Seed could be a huge faceless, emotionless corporation who just wants to make a bunch of money off. No, it's like, guess what? It's us, right? And it's you and your husband, and I think people watching this are going to be like, that's amazing. I want to support a small business owner. I want to support somebody who, really cares this much about the food that they're making, not only for their own kids, but for, my family too. And it's that movement that you've kind of created there. And I think it's really powerful. And I think it's really smart to share that it's you, right?
Yes.
And share that it's you and your family who's really making these things with love.
For sure. One of the things, like, as much as I'm a business owner, I'm a consumer. So everything I do, I think about myself from like a consumer standpoint. Like, why do I want to support the companies that I support? Like, why do I want to share the companies that I share? Like, what is it about them, like, that draws me in? And like, one of those things is like, nothing like bothers me more than just like big corporations that have, like, especially in the food industry, it's like very, like, a lot of like the CPG world is just like the product, and like nothing else to it. And I'm like, okay, cool, like, we get your product, but like, what else? Like, I want to know, like, what do you stand for? Like, who are you? Like, who's making these products? Like, who's the team packaging them? Like, I want to know, even if you're a big company, like, who are the people who work for your company? Like, I want to feel like I'm part of it, so that I want to support you and I want to share your product, and like, I want to keep spending, especially like health food things, like, they're not the cheapest, like, you're going to spend a little bit more money like getting a healthier product. So like, if I'm going to spend a little more money, like, what is it going towards? Like, who are you? What do you stand for? And like, for us, that was like really important. I'm like, I want people to know, like, it's Shane and I. Like, I want them to know, like, it's my husband and I. Like, I want them to know, like I said, we had our daughter. So like this, like, a lot of the community who's been with us for 5 years, like, they've seen my daughter grow up. Like, they've like, I can't believe she's 5. Like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. Like, then they saw us have our son, and like, they were so excited. And like, it was a whole thing. Like, when I was like in the hospital, we were like sharing about it. Like, we're going to the hospital. Like, and like the community was like, yes, like, we can't wait to know.
Fun.
Like, just like hundreds of messages being like, we're so excited. Like, we can't wait to see the first picture of the baby. Like, just like, they're part of it, and we make them part of it, because a lot of these people, like, yeah, they're our customers, but a lot of them have become like our friends. And like, I know a lot about their lives too, where I'm like, you're not just like, I see you, but I'm like, oh, how was your trip to Disney with like Kaden? Like, it's like, I know your kids' names, like, and you too. Like, I've seen some of these people like get married and have kids, and like, they've been around for like, it's more than just our customers. And like, one of the things that we always do too is like, we write, like, I call them love letters. Like, we write notes on every single order note we get. Like, even if it's just like, thank you. Like, I'm like, I always want a touch point with our people, because I'm fully aware that like, this business would not be a business without our community. Like, you allow me to do this. It's not like, I'm not making this for, like, I'm making this for you. And if you don't keep buying, I'm not going to keep being able to keep doing this. And like, that's so apparent to me, and like, just so part of like every single decision we make, that I'm like, just like, I want them to know that. Like, I want our community to like feel that. And I think that they do. And we really try to make them like part of every single thing that we do, because like, they know us, but I'm like, also, I know you, you know? Like,
how do you maintain that as you continue to grow, right? Like, what happens if Whole Foods comes in and wants an order of 3 million bars?
And that's the thing, like, that's also the other thing about wholesale versus like online, when it's like consumer, I get to see your name. Like, I literally do write, and I look at the names, and I'm like, oh, hey, like, I don't know this person. Or I'm like, oh, this person just started interacting with us on on social, and now I'm like, I put a face to a name, or like a, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, cool, and I can like write something that we've been having a conversation about or whatever. And like, yeah, when there's like millions of customers, we're probably not always gonna be able to do that, but I will always have someone in our community handwriting things. Like, I don't care how big we are, like, you will be saying thank you to every single person. Like, you will be writing at least thank you. Like, thank you for supporting us. Thank you for your order. Like, I don't care if that's all it is. Like, there will be a pen to a paper on every single order note for the rest of our time. Like, and when it's like,
it makes a difference.
In wholesale accounts, like people come in, and like, wholesale is great because you get to reach a lot of people that you wouldn't, that, you have to find me online for you to try my bar, or know somebody who has tried them before. But like, you could just walk into a Whole Foods and be like, that bar looks cool. Like, let me give it a try. So like, you do get to reach more people, but the personal part of it isn't there, And I'm not totally like anti-large like retail or anything like that, but like, our big focus is just like building our personal community, because I'm like, I want to be able to, like, if I saw you in person, I'm like, hey, like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to like give you a hug and like have a conversation, because like, I know you, type of thing. Then like, it to be, like just like a product, because we're not just a product. We're like a whole mission. We're like a whole family, No,
I love it, and your social media like exemplifies that, and you guys do a fantastic job on there, and always sharing not just about the product, but also about just the lifestyle and everything else that can come with it, and how much you guys care, and how much you appreciate everybody who supports the business too.
Yeah.
So from a let's talk a little bit about like the growth and like the trajectory. Can we talk about the economics of what it costs to like make one of these? Do you guys know like the numbers?
Yes, and that's my husband's side. I'm so bad. I don't know. I know high level numbers. I don't know like detailed numbers.
Yeah,
that would be his side of the business. But
well, like the question becomes, if I look at a business, and let's say we sat down, you're like, here's the profit and loss statement, right? And here's how much we sold at this price, this much is a wholesale, this much is like retail or direct to consumer. And then it's like a breakdown of all the expenses and like the cost of goods sold, right? Like what does it cost to actually make a bar? What does it cost to package the bar? What does it cost to ship the bar? And I think every business has probably somewhere between 5 to 10% of fat in expenses and things, right? Maybe, I think a bootstrap business especially is probably on the thinner side of that. But as you were talking about before, as you start selling more, there's certain efficiencies that can be put in place. Maybe you can do a larger bulk order of the packaging as opposed to having to buy 1,000 at a time or something, right?
Yeah.
And now you can buy 10,000.
Where you're spending like $1 a package, and you're like, fuck, this is
that's a lot of money, right?
Yeah,
That's a lot of money just to package this friggin' thing. It's like, it's almost as much as the bar costs or whatever,
One of our things, and that has been like, as we've grown, and I have to like be so appreciative to my husband because he is like he's very black and white. He's very like numbers, like, and I'm like the creative person.
Yeah.
I'm like the rainbow person over here, like, let's do this, that. And he's like, okay, wait, like, cool, now let's talk about it, let's break it down. Like, can we do that? Let me figure out how we're gonna do that, because that sounds cool and all, but
you're talking about expensive ingredients though, right? Like these aren't cheap ingredients.
No.
Like in order to get the special peanut that grows above ground in a certain
like
climate,
area.
right? It's like that's not the easiest and cheapest peanut in order for you to get in order to throw in these bars, but it means so much. It makes such an impact, such a difference that you got to go with that peanut. As long as you're talking about it, and it then fulfills the mission, and you can make the money. And it's why somebody like me is willing to come in and spend X number of dollars in order to pay for this, because I know how good it is.
Exactly.
And so it's like, that's got to be a constant kind of, how do we buy more peanuts? Like the only other way to do it, right, because you're committed to getting this type of ingredient, the only other way to do it is like, how can you buy more of it in one batch? But because it's all good, clean ingredients, it doesn't last, right?
Exactly.
And
there's like
only
a very few amount of companies that make peanut butter with that kind of peanut. Okay, what's the next step? Like, are we buying the peanuts and making the peanut butter ourselves? Like, is that more like
are we
cost
buying the
effective?
farm? Let's buy the farm.
I kind of want to. And I'm like, like where do we go next? And that has been a thing he's been really good at, where like a lot of times throughout the year, our bank account then goes to like, we have $1,000 in here, because we'll just like bulk, like as much as we can, like we try to save money on like those ends. So like bulking ingredients, bulking our packaging, our cases that we put them in, the boxes that we ship them out in, all that different kind of stuff. And like, we're not fancy. Like we tell like one of our things is like, when you're a small business, like you don't need to be fancy. Like we still ship our things out in UPS, like USPS boxes. Like I don't need we do have custom boxes that go to UPS, but like we use like the flat rate USPS boxes, because guess what? That's what's most cost effective. That makes sense. And they're free boxes. Like, what the hell? They're free boxes. I don't have to pay for them. Like I'm like, USPS gives them to me. Like, so until it makes sense for me to spend money on like my own custom small seed case for our USPS orders that ship out that way, like I'm gonna keep using their product. And like, we don't get any fancy tape or anything that says like small seed on it. 'Cause I'm like, I'm just gonna buy like Uline basic tape. Like,
well, as a consumer, I know that if you have all that, like, my wife came back with like a new bag, right? A new like purse the other day. And it's got like this ridiculous box, and it's like, I don't know, it's like embroidered, and it's like, we're throwing this away.
It's like, I want to like put on display because it's so nice.
But I just paid for it, right? Like I know that this cost me at least, I don't know, $30 of what this bag costs, which I would have just rather had. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm a different type of consumer, and maybe some people really like that. But for me, it's like, I don't need that. I know, for something like this, guess what? I'm gonna open it up, I'm gonna eat it. But it makes me feel good too, and it's it does look good and it's clean, but I don't care what the actual shipping package looks like.
I think some people get so caught up on like, I need to look so professional and I need it to look like so legit and all this stuff, and I'm like, yes, but like do it as you can, because like we started with butcher paper and a sticker, and then like as we could, like we made more and more and more and more like changes until we got to like this place. And like even our cases, like we made like little changes to our cases until we got to a place where we're like, okay, now we can have these type of cases. Like they weren't always custom, you know what I mean? Like different things like that, where I do feel like people either try to be too legit, or they're just like worried that they're like people aren't going to buy their product because like they don't think they look legit. But even like how you were talking about the ingredients and different stuff like that, like we've had people try to come in and be like, you need to like either you need to sell these for more, you need to make these cheaper, you need to do this, you need to do that, like trying to be like, you know, help, like I'm gonna say helpful. They're trying to be helpful, and they're like, this is how you can make more money. And we're like, as much as we're about the money, we're also not, because we consume these. Like I'm like, I'm not gonna make them cheaper because I'm eating them. I'm giving them to my kids. Like I don't want them to be cheaper. Like I want them to be like the best. Like
Quality.
I want them to be great. Yeah, like I want to feel good eating them. Like I'm never gonna cut corners because I'm like, I consume them. So why would I cut corners? Like I'm not gonna put a product out that I wouldn't eat myself or give to my family. So I do like, and those are places where I'm like, you know, food costs went up like during like COVID and all that stuff. And one of our like really big like things is that we want to make these available to everyone. So we try to keep them at like the lowest possible cost, which is why we don't often run sales and stuff like that, because they are always at the lowest possible cost. And we were like so sad when we had to like increase our prices a little bit, because we're like I know people rely on these, and like I want them to be available to everyone. I don't think it's fair when like a lot of health foods are just so much more expensive, like 90% more expensive. Like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna spend like 20, 30, 40 more percent, but I'm like, when you're just like absolutely like out of the ballpark, where people are like, I can't justify spending $10 on 5 wraps when I can get these wraps over here for $2. Like that's way too big of a like gap between like the healthiest product and like the shit product, you know? Like, but I do feel like with protein bars, it's like ours are like between $3 and $3.50. Like in stores, I think online too, and it's like that. Like that's pretty comparable to
very competitive
other protein bars out there, unless you're getting like, and that's protein bars too, because I feel like a lot of times people try to compare us to like a Cliff bar or something, and I'm like, but Cliff doesn't have any protein in it. Like so, it's like a snack bar, you know? Like I'm like, unless you're getting 15 plus grams of protein, that's not a protein bar. That's a snack bar. Like that.
The most a Cliff bar has is the peanut butter one, which is I think 10 or 11 grams of protein. That's it. And it's like, and then it's got 45 grams of sugar. Yeah,
exactly.
A ton of sugars.
Like,
but it's seen as like, oh, this is like the organic granola backpackers.
And people are like, right? I'm gonna, and again, like marketing is one of like the biggest schemes of all time. Is like how can we convince people that these products are healthy and good, and like put all of the right words on the front of the package so that they never flip it over and think about looking at the ingredients. Like, and so you got a Cliff bar and you're like, well, it's a granola bar, right? Like when you tell people who eat Cliff bars, like, are you aware of how much, like most of them don't even know how much sugar is in them. I'm like, there's like 30 grams of sugar in there.
Oh my gosh.
Literally, like between 20 and 30 grams, depending on the flavor of sugar. Like I said, 25 added grams of sugar, it's all a child's supposed to have. And you have more than that in one bar you're giving your kid. Like that's just like crazy to me.
Yeah, and you think it's supposed to be healthy because it's marketed as a healthy alternative, right? And it's just not, unless you're educated, right? Which is part of this process. And I think one of the things that you mentioned a couple of times, I want to make sure that I don't pass up, is like not having to fake it till you make it kind of a thing, right? I see that all the time in real estate, for instance, where people are like, well, I can't share my journey, or I can't share what I'm doing because I don't have 100 rental properties yet, or 1,000 rental properties. And it's like, no, like the journey, and like that's what people want to see. They don't want to see, they can't relate to somebody who's got this huge business and, you know, got bought out by a corporation or anything along those lines, by private equity or something. They want the grassroots movement. They want to follow the journey. Yeah, the grit and the tenacity that it takes in order to continue the business, and the highs and the lows. And like that's what really, I think, gets the commitment from followers and the community in order to show them here's all the nonsense, here's all the tough stuff that I'm dealing with, not just sunshine and rainbows. It's not just all, and I do think that that's part of it too, is like a lot of these, like especially on social media, then they follow these like really high level people and they just think it's like easy. Like they think like they're just there. And I'm like, you didn't see the 15, 20 years that it got for this person to like, is Ed Milet real estate, right? Like for Ed Milet to get there, real estate, I think,
like to get there, or for like these people to like get there. It's like they went through this, like they've been in the game for a long time, and like now, like maybe social media wasn't a thing back then, and that's why they weren't sharing it. But like 60
years old.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Like you're like they've been in it. Like they're not new to this, but now you're just seeing it now that they're like $1 billion brand, you know, and you think it's easy. And that's also the other thing, is then I think people get so bogged down when they're like, it's not taking off, like, and I'm like, our shit didn't take off. We still like, we're still just like I said, like we're like on this like little like snow, like we're like slowly like climbing up a mountain. Like there's no crazy like overnight, and people see all these stories, and all the stories that are shared are just people who have like had massive growth overnight, and it's like, that's not real. Like, I'm sorry, that's just not real. Like, that does happen, but that happens to 1 in every million. Like, what really is like the hard work that goes in and out every single day. And like, that's also, it validates people who are going through it too. Like, okay, it's not just, it doesn't happen overnight. Like, maybe I want to start my own food company or whatever, and you're like trying to do all this stuff, and you feel like things just aren't like clicking and whatever. And it's like, okay, because like like if you have customers who are keep coming back, like keep doing it. Like keep doing it, because eventually you're just gonna keep like, you're gonna keep growing. Like you just keep figuring out like what is working and moving towards that, and going up that hill, and stop looking at these other people. Because as great as social media is, sometimes it makes us feel like we're not where we should be. I mean, comparison. Or you're scared to share, like you said. And someone's like, oh, I'm not going to share because I'm not where all these other people are. And it's like,
it's not. It's nobody's better or worse. It's just they're further ahead, or not as far ahead as you.
And
right?
likely
like,
they've been doing this shit for like 30 years.
Exactly.
Like, it's not like they just started 10 years ago.
They're further ahead timeline-wise, right? Like because they've been doing it for so much longer. You know, somebody who started in real estate 3 years ago, they're like, oh, I want 5,000 apartments, right? Well, like, I've been doing it for 15 years, you know? And guess what? If I showed you the growth trajectory like you're talking about, it's like, it was flat, had a little bit of success, and then all of a sudden, something clicked in. After 7 or 8 years
putting in the time
of getting my ass kicked. Finally, it like took off, and I got a lucky break, right? And then it became an overnight success. But it wasn't like that. It was like, I shoveled shit for 7 or 8, 9 years before I ever had that level of success. And I think, you know, especially social media, it's such an amazing tool, but it you know, is detrimental if you're not personally and emotionally aware of how bad it can be too, because, you know, that comparison is the thief of joy. And the only true comparison you should be making is like, where am I today versus where was I last year or 5 years ago, right? And I bet that if 6 years ago, when you guys started this company, you are living what you wish you could have 6 years ago, right?
Exactly.
Having that today, like having that success and living that success, and you're like, I'm never as far ahead as I want to be, but guess what? You were dreaming to be in this position 5, 6 years ago, and you're there. Like that's a place of empowerment as opposed to a place of like taking your joy away.
For sure. And I think one of the funniest things too is like when like we look back at like, you know, we had written out like a couple little, like not some crazy business plan, but we had like a couple things of where we expected to be, you know, like a year, 2 years, 3 years. Like one of the funniest things, like you're gonna get like, you're just gonna get like punched in the gut. Like you are gonna get so woken up by actually how hard it is to get to these places. Like you start a business and you're like, oh, I'm gonna be $1 million. Like, cause like I said, like you have all these like ideas in your head from all these companies that have popped off overnight. Like, and that's all you see. And you're like, I'm gonna do this. Like, and then you're like, no, it's so much work that goes into it. Like that, it's like 7 years, like it's so much. And you're just like, you're just trekking through shit all the time. Like it's just like one thing after another after another. And like, there's so many highs, but also so many lows. And like going through that, but knowing like your mission and knowing that like you're doing the right thing. And also having something that you love. Like you love real estate, you love your product, like whatever it is, like it keeps you going, because you need something that's going to keep you going. Because if it's just like you're trying to make quick money or whatever, like you're not going to make that quick money, because you have to like have the passion and like the like work to keep on getting through it, because it's not overnight. Like it's like, so much work that goes into it, and so much time, and so many learning curves, and so many things that you thought you knew that you don't know. And like I said, like even into like getting into wholesale and like retail and stuff like that, it was like we just thought, I don't know, I walk into Whole Foods, I got a good product, like what the heck, they're gonna take us, you know, like it's a great product, like why wouldn't you want this? Like, and it's like, do you have money? Do you know people? Like, do you have somebody who's going to distribute your products? Oh, no, you don't? Okay, go get that. Like, go get all of 3 of those things and then talk to us. And it's like, well, how do I do that? I don't know anybody. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, how are we going to do that? Like, let's figure that out. Like, who do we need to talk to? What do we need to be doing? And like, it's like this whole, it takes so much time. And I think a lot of people, and especially like my generation of people, like our generation of people, are just not willing to put that time in. Like, they're just, they want it overnight. Like, they want it fast, they want it quick. Like, and it's like, if you're not willing to work, you're never going to have the success. And that's just really what it comes down to. Because I'm like, you have to work really fucking hard, like really hard, to even be at like 1/10 of where you want to be. Because Like that's what it takes.
And
it doesn't ever stop. Like the problem, yeah, maybe you have
if
more
I can
money.
get to this point, then I'm gonna be all set.
Yeah,
No, then
like you have more
you're
money, but it's like bigger problems come
Yeah.
along with every single thing that you have.
Yeah.
Like it's like, okay, cool, now we got over that hurdle, but then like something else is just coming crashing down the hill, and you're like, okay, what's next? You know, like, and I really feel like that's how it is with like small seed. Like we're in a great place, but it's like a constant battle of like you're just like waiting like for the next possible thing of like what are we gonna have to figure out next? You know. And one thing I'm really thankful is like me and my husband are very opposite personalities. Like it's a shock that we're married and work out so well, but like he sees things very black and white. He's very analytical, like very clear, and I'm like very like creative side and very like gray side. And so I feel like a lot of problems we have are like we have both sides of the quarter to look at, and like it really allows us to come to like a very good place where we can figure things out. And like sometimes I'm like, this is not my issue, like I can't see it past it, like you have to figure it out. And like he's good about that, you know what I mean? So
I'm glad you bring that up. Like working with your spouse, a lot of times that doesn't work out, but you guys are aware enough where it's like me and my COO, we complement each other, right? Like he's not in front of a camera all the time. He's not speaking on stages. He's not the marketing, driving revenue. He's operations, right? And he's data, and he's analytics, and he's standard operating procedures, and he's measuring metrics on everybody's performance and doing all these things that he could be on stage. He could be in front of a camera. He could absolutely do all these things, but it's not like his genius zone. It's not like the driving, energizing type of activity, right? And I could do the data, and I could do the spreadsheets, and I could do, but it's not my driving, energizing activity. Like so, like he stays in his lane, I stay in my lane, and then 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. 1 + 1 equals 3, right? And we can do more together. We can problem solve because we complement each other, and that's awesome to see how you and your husband work because it's very similar.
I mean, it's taken us a really like small seed has almost been like our this has been like our like the third person in our marriage, like a lot. Like it's taken us a lot to get like we've almost gotten divorced because of small seed. Like we've actually had those conversations of like, okay, like it's us or it's small seed because like this 3 of us is not working. Like this is like, and what it really took was us being like, we need to figure out clear roles that each of us do, and we don't go in each other's lane unless asked to come into the other person's lane. And then when you're asked to come in, you're still only listening.
You're a visitor. You're a guest, right?
You're not driving the car like you're a passenger. Like I'm asking you for your advice, or I'm asking you to just like let me soundboard this off of you. Like this is not, you don't control this. Like, and it took us having to be like very clear about like, what do you do? What do I do? Don't help me unless I'm asking you to help me because it's like my job. Because we would like cross over each other, and like I said, we're so different. Like the way I wanted to solve it and the way he wanted to solve it, and it would just be like butting heads. And then like he was working all the time. I had a new baby. Like it was just like so many things that were like piling on top of each other and like not communicating well. And then just like the business is growing, and then we're almost losing the business, and that's like what the fuck's going on? Like and it's just like all this stuff, and we're like, okay, like actually we literally hate each other. Small C's doing great, but like we're not. Like we need to figure out like what is the And like also the conversation was like, can we work together? Like, do we like, does one of us get another job? You know, like, is that something like, so we stay together and we keep Small Seed, but then does Small Seed keep growing if we're not part of it? Because we're both, like, this is our business together. Like I founded it and everything, but like, this would not be here without him. Like, and so it took, it's like, it's still, and we still like are learning every day of like, but once we've really figured out like those clear roles of what each person needed to do, it was like, okay. And you expect the other person to do their job. That's the other thing is like, if something comes into your boat, like I'm expecting you, like you take it because it's your role. Like, you know, and I'm not gonna worry about it because you're handling it, right? Unless you ask me, I'm expecting that it's handled by you type of thing.
And you can get the same reciprocity from me, right? If something falls in my court, I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna run with it, I'm gonna take care of it. You don't have to worry about it getting done. I will take on that ownership of that. And that way, everybody has a little bit more peace of mind and their brain's not going in 1,000 different directions.
Yes, and you're not trying to solve problems that aren't even your problem in the first place. You know?
Exactly. All right, so we'll close out with this. What do you see, like what are the goals, what are the ambitions for the next 12 to 36 months, right? I think it's hard to plan out longer than that, right? Because you're like, there's 1,000 things, right?
I want to be doing.
We might watch, there might be somebody watching this who has access to, I don't know, some distributorship or distributor that can get you into Whole Foods and all these other different, or whatever. And all of a sudden it just goes on a ridiculous trajectory, right? Or from social media or somebody reaches out or whatever. So like, I don't really plan out typically more than like 24 to 36 months. But I think you need to have some sort of a destination so that way you can have that long-term vision and not get derailed from the highs and the lows that happened just this morning, let alone on a daily, weekly, monthly basis in business and entrepreneurship. And so, having something that's set out, like what does the next 24 months look like? Like where would you love to see Small Seed?
Well, like I said, we are on a great trajectory for our growth right now, which is great. And in 24 months, we will have the piece of equipment we're getting is coming from overseas. So that's going to take, we probably aren't going to get it until the beginning of next year, like January, likely January. So this whole year, we're still going to be hand making our products. But I really just see us continuing to grow, continuing to reach more people, continuing to educate people, and really being at a comfortable place with Small Seed where I feel like then once we have the machine, I will feel like if we got into Whole Foods, we could actually take that on. Because right now, if we got an order to do however many Whole Food stores, we just couldn't even fulfill that with the two of us. It would take us a very long time, and then we'd have to put our customers who have been supporting us this whole time on hold or something to make all those bars, So I do feel like at that point in time, we're going to be able to see ourselves spread out throughout a lot more wholesale locations, and that's kind of where I see us.
That's
at
cool.
That point.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's awesome. It's exciting. I can't wait to check out these other flavors. I know you got the seasonal flavors, which I've had half of them, but I haven't had these two up here, so I'm excited to check those out. And I'm gonna try it in the microwave too, and do the snickerdoodle a little warmed up.
Yeah. Get a little scoop of vanilla ice cream on there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate everything.
Appreciate
It's awesome seeing your journey. I'm excited to continue watching you guys for the next several years.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hey, appreciate you guys being here. Make sure you're giving Small Seed Bar a follow on Instagram. Place an order with them. I don't get anything of it other than just supporting awesome entrepreneurs on their journey to grow their business. And so whenever I can support local and support business owners who are really grinding it out and giving all their heart and soul into their business, I absolutely try to do so. So we're big on entrepreneurship and trying to support entrepreneurs, and hopefully you do the same thing. Make sure you give her a follow and maybe place an order and send some business her way. It would be awesome. And in the comments, I'd love to hear any sort of questions, any sort of feedback, any sort of commentary based on either last week's Sit Down with Holly or this week's Sit Down with Holly. And if there's ever anything that I can do to support you and your business journey, I'd love to hear it and be a resource for you. So appreciate you being here. See you next week on Spilling the Beans.